billion years unfold. The Earth's timeline and epic history. Look up at the night sky. On a clear night, the cosmos stretches out before us, a seemingly infinite tapestry of stars and galaxies. But within this vast expanse lies a place unlike any other, our home, planet Earth. A blue marble, suspended in the blackness, teeming with life, sculpted by forces that have been at play for billions of years. But Earth wasn't always this way. Its story is one of cosmic violence, fiery beginnings, and a gradual, almost miraculous transformation. This is the story of how our planet was born, a tale written in the very fabric of the universe, a journey that began from the ashes of stars. To understand Earth's genesis, we need to journey way back to the very beginning. Around 13.8 billion years ago, the universe as we know it didn't exist. Instead, everything was compressed into an incredibly hot, dense point. Then, in a moment we call the Big Bang, it all began to expand rapidly, violently, creating space and time itself. This expansion continues even today. As the universe cooled, the first elements, mostly hydrogen and helium, began to form. Over vast stretches of time, gravity, the universe's master sculptor, pulled these elements together, forming colossal clouds of gas and dust. These are the birthplaces of stars, cosmic nurseries where new suns are ignited. Within these stellar nurseries, heavier elements were forged in the fiery furnaces of dying stars. When massive stars reach the end of their lives, they explode in spectacular events called supernovas. These explosions scatter the elements they've created, including the very elements that make up our planet and even us across the cosmos. This, in essence, is the stardust from which Earth was born. Our own solar system began its life about 4.6 billion years ago within one such cloud of gas and dust in the Milky Way galaxy. Imagine a vast swirling disk of hydrogen, helium, and traces of heavier elements. The remnants of countless generations of stars that lived and died before our sun was even a glimmer. This is what we call the solar nebula. Gravity, that relentless force, started to pull this nebula together. As the cloud contracted, it began to spin faster and faster, much like an ice skater pulling in their arms. This spinning motion caused the nebula to flatten into a disk, with most of the material congregating at the center. At the heart of this swirling disk, the pressure and temperature became so immense that nuclear fusion ignited. This is the process where atoms are forced together to create heavier atoms, releasing enormous amounts of energy in the process. And just like that, our sun was born, a fiery giant that would come to dominate our solar system and provide the light and warmth necessary for life to eventually flourish on one of its tiny companions. But the story doesn't end with the sun's ignition. The leftover dust and gas in the protoplanetary disk was still in motion, colliding and clumping together. Think of it like cosmic dust bunnies sticking to each other. Over millions of years, these small particles gradually grew larger and larger, forming pebbles, then boulders, and eventually planetesimals, the building blocks of planets. Our Earth, along with the other planets in our solar system, was built from these very planetesimals. Through countless collisions and mergers, these smaller bodies accreted, their gravity pulling in more and more material. This was a violent and chaotic period, a cosmic construction site where worlds were being forged in the crucible of space. So, the next time you look up at the stars, remember that you're looking at the remnants of ancient stellar explosions, the very building blocks of our planet. Earth's journey began in these cosmic clouds, a testament to the power of gravity and the relentless processes of the universe. From these stellar ashes our world arose, a story we will continue to explore as we delve deeper into the intimate history of Earth. Welcome back to Earth, an intimate history. In our opening from the ashes of stars, we began our journey billions of years into the past, tracing the very origins of our planet to the vast expanse of the cosmos. Now, in Chapter 1, Stardust, We'll delve deeper into the cosmic cloud that gave birth to our solar system and eventually to Earth itself. The space between stars isn't completely empty. It's filled with what we call the interstellar medium, a very thin soup of gas, primarily hydrogen and helium, and tiny solid particles we know as dust. Think of it like the faint mist you might see on a very cold morning, but on an absolutely colossal scale. Over vast stretches of space and time, gravity, that universal force of attraction, can cause these wisps of gas and dust to slowly clump together. In certain regions, these clumps can become incredibly massive, forming what we call giant molecular clouds. These clouds are the true birthplaces of stars, immense nurseries where gravity works its magic. These molecular clouds are vast light years across and contain enough material to form hundreds, even thousands of stars. They're cold, dense pockets within the galaxy, shielded from the harsh radiation of nearby stars, allowing gravity to slowly but surely do its work. But a molecular cloud doesn't just spontaneously collapse to form stars. It usually needs a trigger, a cosmic nudge to overcome its internal pressure. One common trigger is the shock wave from a nearby supernova. Remember those massive star explosions we talked about? When a star dies in a supernova, it sends out a powerful ripple through space, like a pebble dropped into a still pond. This shock wave can compress parts of a molecular cloud, making them dense enough and initiate a runaway collapse. Another trigger could be the gravitational influence of a passing star, or even the collision of two molecular clouds. Once a region within a molecular cloud begins to collapse, gravity pulls all the surrounding gas and dust inwards. As this material falls towards the center, it starts to spin, slowly at first, but as it contracts, it spins faster and faster. This is due to a fundamental principle of physics called the conservation of angular momentum. Imagine that ice skater again. When they pull their arms in, their spin increases. The same thing happens with a collapsing cloud of gas and dust. This spinning cloud flattens out into a disc-like structure. At the center of this disc, where most of the mass accumulates, the pressure and temperature begin to skyrocket. This central region is the protostar, the baby sun, not yet fully ignited. As more and more material falls onto the protostar, the temperature and pressure in its core eventually reach a critical point. This is when something truly remarkable happens. Nuclear fusion begins. But the story of our solar system doesn't end there. Surrounding the newly formed sun is the rest of the flattened disk, the protoplanetary disk. This disk is made up of the leftover gas and dust, the raw materials for the planets, moons, asteroids and comets that make up our solar system. Why, this disk contains a vast array of elements, not just hydrogen and helium. Remember those supernovas? They enriched the interstellar medium with heavier elements like carbon, oxygen, iron and silicon, the very elements that will eventually form the rocky planets, including our Earth. So when we talk about stardust, we're not just being poetic. The atoms that make up our bodies, the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the very ground beneath our feet were all forged in the hearts of ancient stars that exploded billions of years ago. Our solar system and everything within it is literally made of recycled stardust. The formation of our solar system from this swirling cloud of stardust was the first crucial step in the long and incredible journey of Earth. In the next chapter, we'll explore the violent birth of our planet itself, as these tiny particles in the protoplanetary disk began to collide and coalesce, eventually forming the molten world we now call home. In the previous chapter, Stardust, we witnessed the birth of our solar system from a vast cloud of gas and dust. Now, the cosmic construction site is in full swing. Our focus narrows to one particular clump of matter, relentlessly growing larger, hotter, and more violent than anything we can truly imagine today. This is the story of the early Earth, a world shrouded in fire, the age of the molten Earth. The accretion process, that gradual sticking together of smaller bodies, continued with immense intensity. For tens of millions of years, the young Earth was a cosmic target, constantly bombarded by leftover debris from the solar nebula. Each impact, from tiny dust grains to massive planetesimals miles across, added to Earth's growing mass. But these collisions weren't just adding bulk, they were also generating incredible amounts of heat. The kinetic energy of these impacting bodies was converted into thermal energy upon impact, causing the early Earth to heat up dramatically. Think of it like repeatedly hammering a piece of metal. It gets hotter with each strike. And the impacts weren't the only source of this primordial inferno. Within the Earth's growing interior, radioactive elements, remnants from those long-dead stars, were also decaying, releasing their own heat. This internal furnace further contributed to the rising temperatures within our nascent planet. The combined effect of these relentless impacts and internal radioactive heating pushed the early Earth past a critical threshold. The entire planet, from its surface to its deep interior, became molten. Imagine a global ocean, not of water but of incandescent rock, a magma ocean. This magma ocean wasn't uniform. Differences in density meant that heavier elements like iron and nickel began to sink towards the Earth's center under the influence of gravity. This crucial process, known as planetary differentiation, was the birth of Earth's core. Surrounded by this dense metallic core was the vast mantle, also molten rock, but composed of lighter silicate minerals. And on top, a thin, fragile crust began to form as the outermost layers started to cool and solidify, only to be repeatedly broken apart and remelted by further impacts. This fiery picture was further complicated by one of the most significant events in Earth's early history, the impact with a protoplanet we call Theia. This colossal collision, we believe, not only led to the formation of our moon, but also added a tremendous amount of energy to the already molten Earth, essentially resetting the clock on its cooling process. Even in this incredibly hostile environment, the Earth was beginning to exhale. Volcanic activity, driven by the immense heat within, released vast quantities of gases from the molten interior into the atmosphere. This early atmosphere was likely a toxic brew, dominated by water vapor, carbon dioxide and nitrogen, with little to no free oxygen. But despite the presence of water vapor in the atmosphere, liquid water couldn't yet exist on the Earth's surface. The temperatures were simply too high. Any water that condensed would have immediately boiled back into steam. The Earth was trapped in a fiery embrace, a world utterly inhospitable to life as we know it. This was a time of immense geological upheaval, a period of constant change and violent activity. The molten Earth was a dynamic system, constantly churning and reshaping itself under the influence of heat and gravity. It was a far cry from the stable, life-giving planet we inhabit today. Yet, within this fiery chaos lay the seeds of our future world. The differentiation into core, mantle and crust was a fundamental step. The outgassing, while creating a toxic atmosphere, was also laying the groundwork for future oceans. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the molten Earth would begin its long journey towards cooling and solidifying. The age of the molten Earth was a crucial chapter in our planet's story, a necessary stage in its evolution. It was a time of intense heat and geological transformation, setting the stage for the next dramatic act, the birth of the oceans. Join us in the next chapter as we explore how water, the very essence of life, finally arrived on our cooling planet. The early Earth, a fiery crucible forged in cosmic collisions, was slowly beginning to relinquish its intense heat. The magma ocean, while still vast and turbulent in places, was starting to solidify, forming a more stable, though still young and fragile, crust. But for our planet to truly become the blue marble we know, it needed one crucial ingredient: water. This is the story of the birth of Earth's oceans. One of the primary sources of Earth's water lies deep within the planet itself. During the intense volcanism of the early Earth, as molten rock rose to the surface, it released trapped gases. Among these gases was water vapor steam, which billowed into the young atmosphere. This process, known as outgassing, was a continuous contribution of water to the planet's surface environment. As the Earth continued to cool, the atmosphere also began to change. The intense heat that had kept all water in a gaseous state started to dissipate. Eventually, the temperature dropped low enough for the water vapor in the atmosphere to condense, forming clouds. And from these clouds, the first rains began to fall, a relentless downpour that would have lasted for millennia. This primordial rain carved out the early landscape, flowing into depressions and basins that had formed on the newly solidified crust. Over vast stretches of time, these basins gradually filled, giving birth to the first oceans. These weren't the vast interconnected oceans we see today, but rather smaller, isolated bodies of water scattered across the globe. But the story of where Earth's water came from is more complex than just internal outgassing. Scientists believe that a significant portion of our planet's water may have been delivered from beyond, carried by icy visitors from the outer solar system. In the early solar system, beyond the orbit of Mars, lay a vast reservoir of icy bodies, comets and water-rich asteroids. These celestial wanderers were frequently perturbed from their orbits by the gravitational influence of the giant planets, sending them on collision courses with the inner solar system, including our young Earth. The evidence for this cosmic delivery comes from the very composition of Earth's water. Scientists analyze the isotopic ratios of hydrogen, the relative amounts of regular hydrogen and its heavier isotope, deuterium, in Earth's oceans, and compare it to the water found in comets and asteroids. Interestingly, the isotopic signature of water in some types of asteroids, particularly those from the inner asteroid belt, matches very closely with that of Earth's oceans. This suggests that these ancient space rocks played a crucial role in delivering a significant portion of the water that covers our planet today. While the contribution from comets is still debated, the evidence for asteroid delivery is compelling. These early oceans were a far cry from the clear, life-sustaining waters we know today. They were likely rich in dissolved minerals leached from the young crust and the atmosphere, potentially appearing greenish or even reddish in color due to the high iron content. While the birth of the oceans was a monumental step in Earth's evolution, it's important to remember that at this stage, life as we understand it had not yet emerged. The conditions were still harsh, with frequent volcanic eruptions, intense ultraviolet radiation from the young sun, and an atmosphere lacking significant oxygen. However, the presence of liquid water was absolutely crucial. Water is often called the universal solvent because it can dissolve a wide range of substances, facilitating chemical reactions. It provided a medium in which the complex molecules necessary for life could potentially form and interact. The birth of the oceans was therefore a pivotal moment, setting the stage for the next extraordinary chapter in Earth's history. The origin of life itself. The journey from a molten ball to a planet with vast oceans was a long and complex one, driven by the relentless forces of geology and the occasional delivery from the cosmos. Join us in the next chapter as we delve into one of the greatest mysteries of all. How did life arise from these primordial waters? With the birth of the oceans, our planet had acquired its defining feature, liquid water. But the Earth's surface was still a far cry from the familiar continents we know today. The crust, the planet's outermost skin, was thin and constantly being recycled by the immense heat within. Now, as the Earth continued its long cooling process, the first stable landmasses began to emerge from the global ocean. This is the story of the formation of the first continents. The early crust was primarily composed of dense, dark volcanic rock, similar to the basalt we see on the ocean floor today. But beneath this surface, the Earth's mantle was still incredibly active, with plumes of hot rock rising and falling, driving the first stirrings of what would eventually become plate tectonics, the engine that shapes our planet's surface. In certain areas, lighter, silica-rich rocks formed through volcanic processes and the melting of the early basaltic crust began to accumulate. These lighter materials were less dense than the surrounding mantle, making them buoyant and resistant to being pulled back down into the Earth's interior. These were the seeds of the first continents, small, scattered landmasses, often referred to as proto-continents or cratons. Volcanic activity played a crucial role in building these early continents. Eruptions spewed forth molten rock, which cooled and solidified, adding new material to the emerging land. Over millions of years, repeated volcanic events gradually built up these proto-continents, inch by painstaking inch. Around 4 billion years ago, a significant milestone was reached in Earth's history, the beginning of the Archean Eon. During this vast expanse of time, the Earth continued to cool, and the proto-continents became larger and more stable. While still very different from the continents we know today, these were the first substantial areas of land to break the surface of the global ocean. These early continents, though desolate and devoid of the lush vegetation we see today, began to interact with the atmosphere and the oceans. The relentless forces of weathering and erosion, driven by wind and rain, started to break down the exposed rock, releasing minerals into the surrounding waters. This early chemical weathering would have a profound impact on the composition of the oceans and the atmosphere over vast timescales. It's important to remember that at this stage life on land was still non-existent. The harsh ultraviolet radiation from the young sun, unfiltered by an ozone layer, made the land surface an incredibly hostile environment. Life, as we will explore in the next part of our story, was still confined to the relative safety of the oceans. These first continents, though seemingly insignificant compared to the vast landmasses we see today, were the foundations upon which all future continents would be built. They were the first permanent land to emerge from the global ocean, and they played a crucial role in shaping the Earth's climate and geology for billions of years to come. Over time, these early proto-continents would collide, break apart, and reassemble in a slow, majestic dance driven by the ever-active forces within our planet. The emergence of the first continents marks the end of our initial journey into the birth of our planet. From the swirling cloud of stardust to a world with oceans and the first land masses, the early Earth underwent a period of dramatic and transformative change. But the story is far from over. In part 2 of Earth and Intimate History, The Quickening, we will delve into the next extraordinary chapter, the origin and early evolution of life itself in those primordial oceans. In the blink of an eye, 4 billion years unfold. The Earth's timeline and epic history. The Quickening Introduction. We ended part 1 of our journey, Planetfall, with a world transformed. The violent birth pangs of our planet had subsided. Oceans, vast and primordial, stretched across a globe dotted with the first barren continents. The Earth had taken shape, a stage set for the next act in its epic history. But something profound was about to happen, a fundamental shift that would forever alter the destiny of our planet. From the inanimate matter of those early oceans, something extraordinary emerged: life. This is part 2 of the Earth's timeline, an epic history, and we call it The Quickening. Over the course of planetfall, we witnessed the cosmic origins of Earth, the fiery heat of its infancy, the dramatic formation of the Moon, and the arrival of the life-giving oceans. We saw the first continents rise from the waters, a new landscape taking hold. But even with oceans teeming and land emerging, something vital was missing. The world was awake, but not yet truly alive. The question of how life arose from non-living matter is one of the most profound and enduring mysteries in science. How did simple molecules come together to form the first self-replicating cells? What were the conditions on early Earth that made this incredible leap possible? These are the questions that will guide us through the quickening. This transition from a purely geological world to a biological one was a turning point of immense significance. It marked the beginning of a new era where life itself would become a major force shaping the planet. The very air we breathe, the ground beneath our feet, the oceans that cover most of our world, all have been profoundly influenced by the life that first stirred in those ancient seas. Over the next 4 chapters, we will delve into this remarkable period. We'll explore the earliest forms of life, the bacteria and archaea that dominated our planet for billions of years. We'll witness the revolutionary rise of oxygen, a byproduct of early life that would ultimately pave the way for more complex organisms. We'll examine the evolution of eukaryotic cells, the building blocks of all plant and animal life, and we'll even encounter periods of global glaciation, the dramatic Snowball Earth events, and consider their impact on the burgeoning life on our planet. The quickening is the story of life's first tentative steps, its incredible resilience and its profound impact on the young Earth. It is the story of how our planet truly came alive. Join us as we embark on this next chapter in the epic history of our world. In the quickening, we embark on the most profound journey of all, the emergence of life on our planet. The early Earth, with its vast oceans and nascent continents, was a world ripe with potential. But how did life, in all its complexity, arise from the simple chemical ingredients present in those primordial seas? This is the enigma we explore in Chapter 5, The Origin of Life. Unraveling the mystery of life's origin is one of the greatest challenges in science. We're peering back billions of years to a time before fossils were readily formed, before complex biological structures existed. Direct evidence from this period is incredibly scarce. Instead, scientists piece together clues from chemistry, geology, and our understanding of modern biology to formulate theories, educated guesses about how life might have first sparked into existence. The fundamental idea is called abiogenesis, life arising from non-living matter. This wasn't a sudden event, but likely a gradual process involving several key steps. First, simple inorganic molecules present in the early Earth's environment needed to combine to form more complex organic molecules, the building blocks of life such as amino acids and nucleotides. Second, these organic molecules needed to self-assemble into larger structures capable of self-replication, making copies of themselves. This is a crucial characteristic of life. And third, these self-replicating structures likely needed to be enclosed within some kind of membrane, creating the first primitive cells, separating their internal environment from the outside world. So, where on early Earth could these steps have taken place? One compelling hypothesis points to hydrothermal vents fissures on the ocean floor that release geothermally heated, chemically rich fluids from the Earth's interior. These vents provide a unique environment with a ready supply of energy and the necessary chemical ingredients for life to potentially arise. The mineral-rich waters around these vents could have acted as catalysts, speeding up the chemical reactions needed to form organic molecules. The temperature gradients and the compartmentalized nature of the vent structures might have also provided ideal conditions for the assembly of more complex structures and the development of early membranes. Another prominent idea focuses on the early Earth's surface. In this primordial soup theory, organic molecules could have formed in shallow pools of water, energized by lightning strikes or the intense ultraviolet radiation from the young sun, which wasn't yet filtered by an ozone layer. A famous experiment in the 1950s, the Miller-Urey experiment, provided some support for this idea. Scientists simulated the conditions of early Earth's atmosphere and subjected it to electrical sparks. Remarkably, they found that amino acids, the building blocks of proteins, could spontaneously form under these conditions. More recently, the RNA world hypothesis has gained significant traction. This theory proposes that RNA, a molecule similar to DNA but simpler, might have been the primary genetic material in early life. RNA can not only store genetic information but also act as an enzyme, catalyzing chemical reactions. This dual role could have simplified the early steps of life's origin. There's also the intriguing idea of panspermia, the possibility that some of the building blocks of life, or even very simple forms of life itself, originated elsewhere in the cosmos and were transported to Earth by meteorites or comets. While this doesn't explain the ultimate origin of life, it suggests that the ingredients might have had a cosmic head start. The truth is, we don't yet have a definitive answer to how life began. The origin of life remains one of the most challenging and exciting frontiers of scientific research. It's likely that a combination of these different environments and processes played a role in this extraordinary event. What we do know is that life did arise on Earth relatively early in its history, within the first billion years. This suggests that the conditions on early Earth were conducive to the formation of life. And perhaps the process wasn't as improbable as it might seem. The emergence of the first self-replicating entities, however they arose, marked a monumental turning point in our planet's story. It was the dawn of the biosphere, the beginning of a biological revolution that would ultimately lead to the incredible diversity of life we see around us today. In our next chapter, we'll delve into the world of these early life forms, the bacteria that would go on to shape our planet in profound ways. In the previous chapter, we pondered the extraordinary mystery of life's origin. Now, in the bacterial world, we delve into the realm of the first inhabitants of our planet, the bacteria. For billions of years, these tiny, single-celled organisms reigned supreme, shaping the Earth in ways we are only beginning to fully understand. Bacteria are the simplest forms of life we know. Each one is a self-contained unit, a single cell lacking the complex internal structures found in more advanced life forms like plants and animals. Scientists classify them as prokaryotes, meaning before nucleus, because their genetic material isn't enclosed within a nucleus like in our own cells. Despite their apparent simplicity, bacteria are incredibly diverse and adaptable. Even today, they thrive in virtually every environment on Earth, from the deepest ocean trenches to the hottest volcanic springs, and even within our own bodies. Imagine the early Earth, a world with no plants, no animals, just a vast ocean teeming with these microscopic pioneers. The early bacterial world was likely very different from what we see today. The atmosphere contained very little, if any, free oxygen. As a result, the first bacteria were likely anaerobic, meaning they didn't require oxygen to survive, and in fact many would have been poisoned by it. They obtained energy from a variety of sources, perhaps by breaking down organic molecules that had formed abiotically, or by utilizing chemical reactions involving sulfur or methane. Then around 3.5 billion years ago, a revolutionary new type of bacteria emerged. The cyanobacteria, sometimes referred to as blue-green algae. These remarkable microbes developed the ability to harness the power of sunlight to produce energy through a process we know as photosynthesis. Photosynthesis was a game changer. These early cyanobacteria took in carbon dioxide and water and, using sunlight as their energy source, produced organic matter and released oxygen as a byproduct. This was the first significant source of oxygen on our planet, a waste product that would eventually transform the Earth's atmosphere and pave the way for the evolution of more complex oxygen-breathing life. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the existence of these early cyanobacteria comes in the form of structures called stromatolites. These layered, rock-like formations are created by the activity of microbial mats, primarily cyanobacteria, which trap sediment and precipitate minerals over time. Fossil stromatolites dating back billions of years provide a tangible record of this early life. The impact of these early bacteria on the planet was profound. As cyanobacteria thrived and multiplied, they steadily released oxygen into the oceans and eventually into the atmosphere. This gradual accumulation of oxygen, a period known as the Great Oxidation Event, was one of the most significant environmental shifts in Earth's history, a turning point we'll explore in more detail in the next chapter. While bacteria were the dominant form of life, they weren't the only single-celled organisms present in the early Earth. Another major domain of life, the archaea, also emerged during this period. Often found in extreme environments like hot springs and salty lakes, archaea are distinct from bacteria in their genetic makeup and biochemistry, representing a separate branch on the tree of life. For billions of years, the Earth was truly a bacterial world. These microscopic organisms were the primary drivers of biological activity, shaping the planet's chemistry and laying the foundation for all subsequent life. Their reign was long, stretching for over 3 billion years, a testament to their remarkable adaptability and resilience. Even today, bacteria remain incredibly important. They play crucial roles in nutrient cycling, decomposition, and countless other ecological processes. They are a fundamental part of the web of life on our planet. The bacterial world was the first act in the grand drama of life on Earth, a period of slow but profound change that transformed our planet from a purely geological entity into a vibrant, living world. Join us in the next chapter as we explore the dramatic consequences of the oxygen produced by these early microbial pioneers. The coming of oxygen. In the bacterial world, life had found a foothold on our young planet. And in doing so, some microbes, the cyanobacteria, began to perform a remarkable feat: photosynthesis, using sunlight to create energy and releasing a gas as a byproduct, oxygen. But this seemingly life-giving gas was initially a poison to most of the life that existed at the time. This is the story of the dramatic rise of oxygen on Earth. For the early anaerobic bacteria, those that thrived in the absence of oxygen, this new gas was toxic. It was a waste product, a form of pollution that threatened their very existence. The oxygen produced by the cyanobacteria initially reacted with dissolved iron in the oceans, forming iron oxide, essentially rust, which then precipitated out and settled on the ocean floor. Over vast stretches of time, these layers of iron oxide accumulated, creating a unique geological record-banded iron formations, or BIFs. These distinctive rocks, with their alternating bands of iron-rich and silica-rich layers, are our primary evidence for the early production of oxygen in Earth's oceans, a process that continued for billions of years. Eventually, the oceans became saturated with oxygen. There was no more dissolved iron left to react with. This marked a critical turning point in Earth's history, a period known as the Great Oxidation Event, or GOE. Around 2.4 to 2 billion years ago, oxygen levels began to rise significantly in the atmosphere for the first time. The evidence for this atmospheric shift is compelling. After the period of extensive banded iron formation deposition, we see a decline in their formation. Simultaneously, new types of rocks, called red beds, began to appear on land. These red beds are sandstones and shales, stained red by iron oxides that formed in the presence of atmospheric oxygen. The Great Oxidation Event had profound and far-reaching consequences for life on Earth. For many of the anaerobic organisms that had dominated the planet for billions of years, the rise of oxygen was a catastrophic extinction event. They were ill-equipped to deal with this reactive gas, and many retreated to oxygen-poor environments where they still exist today. But for other organisms, the presence of oxygen presented a new opportunity. Some microbes evolved the ability to not only tolerate oxygen, but to actually use it in their metabolism. This process, called aerobic respiration, is far more efficient at producing energy than anaerobic processes. It allowed organisms to grow larger and become more active, paving the way for the evolution of more complex life forms. The increasing levels of oxygen in the atmosphere also led to another crucial development, the formation of the ozone layer. High in the atmosphere, oxygen molecules reacted with ultraviolet radiation from the sun to form ozone, O3. This ozone layer acted as a shield, absorbing much of the harmful UV radiation that had previously bombarded the Earth's surface, making it largely uninhabitable for life. With the protection of the ozone layer, the land surface was no longer as hostile. While it would still take a long time for life to fully colonize the land, the formation of the ozone layer was a critical step in that direction. The rise of oxygen also played a vital role in the evolution of more complex cells, the eukaryotes. These cells, with their internal compartments and a nucleus containing their genetic material, require significantly more energy than prokaryotic cells. Aerobic respiration, fueled by the increasing levels of oxygen, provided the necessary energy for this greater complexity to evolve. The coming of oxygen was a dramatic turning point in Earth's history, a period of both destruction and immense opportunity. It triggered a major extinction event, but it also laid the foundation for the evolution of all the complex life we see around us today, including ourselves. The legacy of the Great Oxidation Event continues to shape our planet. Oxygen remains a dominant component of our atmosphere, driving countless geological and biological processes. It is a testament to the profound and long-lasting impact of those early microscopic life forms. Join us in the next chapter as we explore the next major step in the evolution of life. The rise of the eukaryotes. The oxygen revolution had fundamentally altered our planet, creating an atmosphere ripe for new forms of life. And indeed, from this oxygen-rich environment emerged a new type of cell, one with a complexity far exceeding that of the bacteria and archaea that had dominated for billions of years. This is the story of the rise of the eukaryotes. For eons, life on Earth consisted solely of prokaryotes, simple single-celled organisms whose genetic material floated freely within the cell. But around 1.8 to 1.6 billion years ago, a new kind of cell appeared, the eukaryote. The name literally means true nucleus, and that's a key feature. Unlike prokaryotes, eukaryotic cells have their genetic material enclosed within a membrane-bound nucleus. But the nucleus isn't the only innovation. Eukaryotic cells also possess other specialized internal compartments called organelles, each performing specific functions within the cell. These include mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cell, responsible for energy production through aerobic respiration, and in plant cells, chloroplasts, which carry out photosynthesis. So how did these complex eukaryotic cells arise from their simpler prokaryotic ancestors? The leading scientific explanation is a remarkable process called endosymbiosis, a term that literally means living inside together. The theory proposes that early in Earth's history, a large prokaryotic cell engulfed a smaller prokaryotic cell. Instead of being digested, the smaller cell survived and established a symbiotic relationship with its host, meaning both cells benefited from the arrangement. Over vast stretches of time, these engulfed cells evolved into the organelles we see in eukaryotic cells today. For instance, it's believed that mitochondria, the energy-producing organelles found in almost all eukaryotic cells, originated from an ancient aerobic bacterium that was engulfed by another prokaryotic cell. Similarly, chloroplasts found in plant cells and algae are thought to have descended from an ancient photosynthetic cyanobacterium that was engulfed by a eukaryotic ancestor. The evidence supporting endosymbiosis is quite compelling. Both mitochondria and chloroplasts have their own small circular DNA, similar to that found in bacteria. They also have double membranes, the inner membrane likely belonging to the engulfed bacterium and the outer membrane derived from the engulfing cell. Furthermore, they can replicate independently within the eukaryotic cell. The rise of eukaryotic cells was a pivotal moment in the history of life. These larger, more complex cells had a greater capacity for specialization and could carry out more sophisticated functions. This opened the door for the evolution of multicellularity, the ability of cells to cooperate and form larger, more complex organisms. However, the evolution of eukaryotes wasn't a rapid process. While the Great Oxidation Event provided the necessary oxygen for energy-intensive eukaryotic life, it took hundreds of millions of years for these complex cells to become established and diversify. The fossil record shows a significant gap between the rise of oxygen and the widespread appearance of diverse eukaryotes. Today, the eukaryotes represent a vast and diverse domain of life, encompassing everything from single-celled protists like amoeba and paramecium to fungi, plants, and of course animals, including ourselves. All share this common ancestor, a simple prokaryotic cell that embarked on an extraordinary evolutionary journey through endosymbiosis. The rise of the eukaryotes was a crucial stepping stone on the path to the complex biosphere we see today. It marked a significant increase in the complexity of life on Earth, setting the stage for the next dramatic chapter in our planet's history. A period of global upheaval that would test the resilience of even these more advanced cells. The era of Snowball Earth. Join us next time as we explore this dramatic period of global glaciation. The rise of eukaryotic life marked a significant step in the complexity of our planet's biosphere. But the Earth's journey is rarely a smooth upward climb. Around 720 to 635 million years ago, our planet plunged into a series of dramatic and extreme climate events, periods so cold that the entire globe may have been encased in ice, even down to the equator. This is the era of Snowball Earth. The Snowball Earth hypothesis proposes that, on multiple occasions, the Earth's surface froze almost completely. Imagine a world where the familiar blue of the oceans is replaced by a blinding expanse of white ice, reflecting the sun's energy back into space. It's a scenario that seems almost unimaginable, yet the geological evidence suggests it really happened. One of the key pieces of evidence comes from the discovery of glacial deposits called tillites found in geological layers that would have been located at low latitudes, even near the equator, during these ancient ice ages. These rocks contain the telltale signs of being transported and deposited by massive ice sheets, suggesting that ice extended far beyond the polar regions. So, what could have triggered such a dramatic global cooling? Scientists believe a positive feedback loop may have been responsible. An initial period of cooling, perhaps due to changes in the Earth's tilt or solar activity, would have led to increased ice cover, particularly at the poles. Ice is much more reflective than land or water, a property we call albedo. As more ice formed, more sunlight was reflected back into space, leading to further cooling and even more ice formation. This runaway effect could have eventually plunged the entire planet into a deep freeze, a true Snowball Earth. But if the Earth froze solid, how did it ever thaw? The key lies in the planet's internal engine volcanoes. Even during a Snowball Earth event, volcanic eruptions would have continued to release carbon dioxide, a potent greenhouse gas, into the atmosphere. Normally, carbon dioxide is removed from the atmosphere through weathering of rocks and absorption by the oceans. However, with the land largely covered in ice and the oceans frozen, these processes would have been significantly slowed down. Over millions of years, the carbon dioxide released by volcanoes would have gradually built up in the atmosphere, trapping more and more heat. Eventually, the greenhouse effect would have become strong enough to melt the ice, leading to a dramatic and relatively rapid thawing of the planet. This escape from the snowball state would have been a period of intense environmental change. These extreme climate events may have had a profound impact on the evolution of life. The intense environmental pressures of a Snowball Earth could have acted as a powerful selective force, potentially driving evolutionary innovation, particularly among the eukaryotes that had recently emerged. Some scientists believe that the diversification of multicellular life in the Cambrian explosion, which followed these ice ages, may have been partly triggered by the dramatic environmental changes associated with Snowball Earth. The geological record suggests that there were likely multiple Snowball Earth events in our planet's history, spanning tens of millions of years each. These were periods of extreme climate fluctuation, testing the limits of life on Earth. The story of Snowball Earth is a stark reminder of the dynamic and sometimes volatile nature of our planet. It showcases the delicate balance of Earth's climate system and the powerful consequences of feedback loops. From a frozen wasteland to a world teeming with life, the Earth's journey continued its unpredictable path. Join us in part 3 of the Earth's timeline, an epic history, as we emerge from the ice ages and witness the spectacular flowering of life in the blink of an eye. 4 billion years unfold. The Earth's timeline, an epic history. Part 2 of our epic journey, the quickening, saw life emerge from the primordial oceans, transforming our planet with the rise of oxygen and the evolution of complex eukaryotic cells. We even weathered global ice ages, the dramatic Snowball Earth events. Now, as the Earth thawed and the conditions became more favorable, life was poised for an unprecedented leap forward. For billions of years, life had remained relatively simple, dominated by single-celled organisms. But around 541 million years ago, something extraordinary happened. In a relatively short geological time frame, the oceans exploded with an incredible diversity of animal life. This period, known as the Cambrian explosion, is the dawn of complex animal life on Earth, and it's what we call Part 3, the flowering. Before the Cambrian, most life forms were soft-bodied and relatively small. But during this period, within just a few tens of millions of years, almost all the major animal body plans we see today suddenly appeared in the fossil record. Creatures with shells, skeletons, eyes, and complex organs evolved at an astonishing rate. It was as if life had suddenly found a multitude of new ways to exist. Think of it like a garden after a long winter. For a long time, only simple plants might have been present. But then, with the right conditions, suddenly a riot of colour and form emerges. Flowers of all shapes and sizes bloom, showcasing the incredible potential of life. The Cambrian explosion was the flowering of the animal kingdom, a period of rapid experimentation and innovation that laid the foundation for all the animal life that would follow. The contrast between the life that came before the Cambrian and the explosion of complexity during this period is truly remarkable. It's a testament to the power of evolution to seize opportunities and diversify into a myriad of forms when the conditions are right. Scientists are still actively researching the precise triggers for this explosion, but factors like increased oxygen levels and changes in ocean chemistry likely played a significant role. Over the course of the flowering, we will explore this incredible period of diversification and trace the lineage of life as it continues its journey. We'll witness the first ventures onto land, the rise of the first forests that would dramatically alter our planet's atmosphere once again, the emergence of reptiles, the long reign of the dinosaurs, and the dramatic event that brought their dominance to an end. The Cambrian explosion marks a pivotal moment in the Earth's timeline, a dramatic turning point where life truly began to flourish in all its intricate and wondrous forms. Join us as we delve into this extraordinary era and witness the dawn of the animal kingdom in Part 3, the flowering. We've arrived at one of the most pivotal and perplexing periods in the history of life on Earth, the Cambrian explosion. Following the long reign of simple, single-celled organisms and the dramatic Snowball Earth glaciations, the oceans suddenly burst forth with an astonishing array of complex animal life. The Cambrian period, spanning a little over 50 million years, might seem like a vast expanse of time to us. But in the grand scheme of Earth's history, it was a blink of an eye, a geological heartbeat within which the foundations of the animal kingdom were laid. This explosion of life wasn't instantaneous, but it was remarkably rapid compared to the billions of years that preceded it. The Cambrian explosion is characterized by several key features. Firstly, the seemingly sudden appearance of most of the major animal body plans. what scientists call phyla. These are the broad categories that encompass all animal life today, things like arthropods, insects, crustaceans, mollusks, snails, clams, chordates, which include us, and many others. Before the Cambrian, these fundamental blueprints for animal life were largely absent. Secondly, the Cambrian saw the widespread development of hard body parts, such as shells, skeletons, and exoskeletons. This was a significant evolutionary innovation, providing protection, support, and anchors for muscles, allowing for more active lifestyles and the development of larger sizes. Let's take a look at some of the iconic inhabitants of this extraordinary era. Imagine Anomalocaris, a formidable predator with grasping claws and a circular mouth lined with teeth. Or the humble trilobites, early arthropods with segmented bodies and intricate eyes that scuttled across the seabed. Then there's the bizarre Hallucigenia, a creature so strange that scientists initially reconstructed it upside down. And the equally peculiar Opabinia with its 5 eyes and a long, flexible proboscis ending in a claw. These are just a few examples of the incredible evolutionary experimentation that took place during the Cambrian. What triggered this remarkable burst of evolutionary creativity? Several factors likely played a role. The increase in atmospheric oxygen levels following the Snowball Earth events provided the energy needed for more active and larger organisms. The clearing of the frozen Earth may have also opened up new ecological niches for life to exploit. The evolution of Hox genes, a set of regulatory genes that control the body plan of animals, may have also been crucial, allowing for the development of more complex and segmented body structures. And the emergence of predation likely acted as a powerful selective pressure, driving the evolution of defenses like shells and more sophisticated sensory organs. Our understanding of the Cambrian explosion is largely based on remarkable fossil discoveries from sites around the world, most notably the Burgess Shale in Canada and the Chengjiang fossil site in China. These sites preserved not just the hard parts of organisms, but also the soft tissues, providing an unprecedented glimpse into the diversity of early animal life. The contrast with the life that existed before the Cambrian is stark. The Ediacaran biota, which preceded the Cambrian, consisted mostly of enigmatic, soft-bodied organisms with simple, often radial symmetry. The Cambrian saw the rapid appearance of animals with bilateral symmetry, distinct heads and tails, and specialized organs. A fundamental shift in the organization of life. The legacy of the Cambrian explosion is profound. Almost all the major animal phyla that exist today can trace their origins back to this relatively brief period in Earth's history. It was a time of evolutionary innovation on a scale never seen before or since, setting the stage for the further diversification and evolution of life that would eventually lead to the world we inhabit today. The Cambrian explosion remains a source of fascination and ongoing research for scientists. While we've made tremendous progress in understanding this pivotal period, many questions still remain about the precise causes and mechanisms behind this extraordinary burst of life. Join us in the next chapter as we explore the next major step in life's journey. The move from the oceans to the land. The Cambrian explosion filled the oceans with an astonishing array of life. But for billions of years, the land remained largely barren, a harsh and unforgiving environment. The next great chapter in Earth's history is the story of life's courageous and transformative journey from the water to the land, coming ashore. Compared to the stable, buoyant environment of the oceans, the land presented a formidable set of challenges. The most immediate was desiccation, the constant threat of drying out. Water is essential for life, and on land, organisms needed to find ways to retain moisture. Gravity was another significant hurdle. Aquatic life is supported by the water around it, but on land, organisms needed structures to support their own weight. Temperature fluctuations on land were also far more extreme than in the oceans, and obtaining nutrients required new strategies. Early life on land likely began at the water's edge, with simple organisms like algae and cyanobacteria forming slimy microbial mats on damp rocks and soil. These pioneers paved the way, slowly modifying the terrestrial environment. The first true land plants, the bryophytes, which include mosses, liverworts and hornworts, emerged around 470 million years ago. These plants developed simple adaptations to cope with the challenges of life on land. They possessed root-like structures called rhizoids to anchor them and absorb some water, and a waxy outer layer called a cuticle to help prevent water loss. However, they still relied on moist environments for reproduction. Not long after the first plants, the first animals began to venture onto land. These were likely invertebrates, primarily arthropods, the ancestors of modern insects, millipedes and spiders. Their hard external skeletons, or exoskeletons, provided support and protection against desiccation. They also developed simple respiratory systems to extract oxygen from the air. A major evolutionary breakthrough came with the appearance of vascular plants around 420 million years ago. These plants, which include ferns and eventually seed-bearing plants, developed specialized tissues, xylem and phloem, to transport water and nutrients throughout their bodies. This innovation allowed plants to grow much larger and colonize drier environments further inland. The colonization of land by plants created new opportunities for animals. The increasing vegetation provided food and shelter, leading to the next significant wave of terrestrial pioneers, the vertebrates. The first vertebrates to make the transition from water to land were the early tetrapods, four-limbed creatures that evolved from lobe-finned fish around 370 million years ago. These early tetrapods faced significant challenges on land. Their limbs were initially adapted for moving in shallow water, not for supporting their full weight on dry ground. They still needed to return to water to lay their eggs, as their eggs lacked a protective shell. Over millions of years, they gradually evolved stronger limbs, more efficient lungs for breathing air, and other adaptations that allowed them to spend more time on land. The move to land was a gradual process, spanning tens of millions of years. It wasn't a single dramatic event, but rather a series of incremental adaptations by different groups of organisms as they explored this new and challenging frontier. From simple microbial mats to complex vascular plants and the first four-legged vertebrates, life slowly but surely conquered the land. The world we know today, with its vast forests, sprawling grasslands and diverse animal life on land, owes its existence to these early pioneers who dared to venture out of the aquatic realm. Their adaptations and their descendants have shaped the terrestrial environment in profound ways. Join us in the next chapter as we explore the next major stage in the evolution of land ecosystems, the age of forests. Life had taken its first tentative steps onto land, but the early terrestrial landscape was still relatively low-lying, dominated by smaller plants clinging to damp environments. The next major transformation of our planet's surface was the rise of towering vegetation, the evolution of the first true forests. This is the story of the age of forests. The key to the development of these grand ecosystems lay in the continued evolution of vascular plants, those with specialized tissues for transporting water and nutrients. A crucial innovation was the development of lignin, a complex polymer that provided structural support, allowing plants to grow much taller and develop woody stems. This was the biological equivalent of an architectural revolution. By the Devonian period, around 419 to 359 million years ago, the first true forests began to appear. These weren't the forests we might immediately recognize today. They were dominated by plants like Archaeopteris, which looked somewhat like a fern but reproduced with seeds, and giant lycophytes, relatives of modern club mosses that could reach heights of over 30 meters. These early forests had a profound impact on the Earth's atmosphere. As these plants grew and photosynthesized, they absorbed vast amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and released oxygen. This process, occurring on a global scale, led to a significant drawdown of atmospheric carbon dioxide levels. The consequences of this atmospheric shift were significant, Lower levels of carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, likely led to a cooling of the planet. Some scientists even suggest that this period of intense plant growth may have contributed to glacial periods. See? The rise of forests also created entirely new ecological niches. The complex three-dimensional structure of these early woodlands provided shelter and new food sources for the evolving terrestrial animal life. While insects and other invertebrates had already made the move to land, the emergence of forests spurred further diversification and adaptation. The Carboniferous period, which followed the Devonian, around 359 to 299 million years ago, saw the further expansion and diversification of forests. These were often swampy environments, dominated by giant lycophytes, horsetails, and early ferns that thrived in the warm, humid conditions. The sheer volume of plant matter produced in these Carboniferous forests and the swampy conditions that prevented complete decomposition led to the accumulation of vast amounts of organic material. Over millions of years, this plant matter was buried and compressed, eventually forming the extensive coal deposits that we still rely on today. The very fuel that powered the Industrial Revolution has its origins in these ancient forests. Another key evolutionary innovation that arose during this period was the development of seeds in plants. Unlike earlier plants that relied on spores for reproduction, seeds provided a protective covering and a food source for the developing embryo, allowing plants to colonize drier habitats and spread more effectively. The age of forests was a time of profound change for our planet. The evolution of tall, woody plants not only transformed the terrestrial landscape, but also had a dramatic impact on the atmosphere and the evolution of other life forms. These ancient forests laid the foundation for the complex terrestrial ecosystems we see today. From the first tentative steps onto land, life had now created vast, complex ecosystems that stretched across continents, but the story of terrestrial life was far from over. In our next chapter, we'll explore the rise of a new group of vertebrates that would become increasingly dominant on land: the reptiles. The age of forests had transformed the land, creating rich and complex ecosystems. But the vertebrates that first ventured onto land, the early tetrapods, were still largely tied to water for reproduction. The next major evolutionary step was the emergence of a group of animals that could truly conquer the terrestrial realm: the reptiles. Reptiles evolved from amphibian ancestors, branching off the tetrapod family tree around 310 million years ago during the late Carboniferous period. They inherited the four-limbed body plan, but developed key adaptations that allowed them to thrive in drier, more diverse terrestrial environments far from the water's edge. Perhaps the most significant of these adaptations was the evolution of the amniotic egg. Unlike amphibian eggs, which are soft and must be laid in water to prevent desiccation, the amniotic egg has a tough, leathery shell and internal membranes that provide a watery environment and nourishment for the developing embryo. This innovation liberated reptiles from the need to return to water to reproduce, allowing them to colonize a much wider range of habitats. But the amniotic egg was just one piece of the puzzle. Reptiles also developed other crucial adaptations for terrestrial life. Their skin became covered in scales, which are made of keratin, the same protein found in our fingernails. These scales are waterproof, further reducing the risk of desiccation. Reptiles also evolved more efficient lungs for breathing air and developed different metabolic strategies, allowing some to thrive in colder or hotter environments. While many early reptiles were ectothermic, relying on external sources of heat to regulate their body temperature, this was still an advantage in many terrestrial habitats. The rise of reptiles wasn't a smooth, uninterrupted ascent. Around 252 million years ago, the Earth experienced the largest mass extinction event in its history, the Permian-Triassic extinction, often referred to as the Great Dying. This catastrophic event wiped out the vast majority of life on Earth, including many early reptiles and their ancestors. However, from the ashes of this devastation, a new era dawned. the Triassic period. The surviving reptiles diversified rapidly, filling the ecological niches left vacant by the extinction. This period saw the emergence of a wide array of reptilian forms, including the ancestors of crocodiles, turtles, and most famously, the dinosaurs. As the Triassic transitioned into the Jurassic and then the Cretaceous periods, the reptiles continued their evolutionary success story. Dinosaurs in particular rose to prominence, dominating terrestrial ecosystems for over 150 million years. But they weren't the only successful reptilian lineage. The ancestors of modern crocodiles also appeared in the Triassic, developing into formidable predators in both aquatic and terrestrial environments. Turtles, with their iconic shells, evolved in the late Triassic, their origins still a subject of scientific debate. And the squamates, the group that includes lizards and snakes, also began to diversify during this time. The reptiles represent a vast and diverse group, with over 10,000 living species today. From the tiny gecko to the massive saltwater crocodile, they have adapted to a remarkable range of habitats across the globe. Their evolutionary journey, stretching back hundreds of millions of years, is a testament to their adaptability and resilience. Our understanding of the rise of reptiles is built upon a rich fossil record, revealing the gradual changes in their anatomy and the incredible diversity of forms that have existed throughout Earth's history. Paleontologists continue to unearth new fossils that shed light on the intricate evolutionary relationships within this fascinating group. The rise of reptiles marked a new era of terrestrial dominance, setting the stage for some of the most iconic creatures to ever walk the Earth. Join us in the next chapter as we delve into the age of these magnificent animals, the reign of dinosaurs. The reptiles had risen to prominence, but one group within this vast lineage would achieve unparalleled dominance over the land for an astonishing 150 million years. This is the story of the dinosaurs, their rise, their incredible diversity, and their long reign over planet Earth. The Mesozoic era, often called the Age of Reptiles, began around 252 million years ago, following the Permian-Triassic extinction. It was during the Triassic period that the first true dinosaurs evolved from earlier reptile ancestors. These early dinosaurs were relatively small, but they possessed key features that would eventually lead to their global success. What exactly defines a dinosaur? Scientists look for specific skeletal features, particularly in the hips and ankles. Dinosaurs are broadly divided into two main groups based on their hip structure: the Saurischeans, which include the long-necked sauropods and the meat-eating theropods, and the Ornithischians, which include the bird-hipped dinosaurs like Stegosaurus and Triceratops. Despite the name, birds actually evolved from the Saurischean group. The Triassic period saw the emergence of dinosaurs like Coelophysis, a small, agile predator, and the early ancestors of the giant sauropods, the largest land animals to ever live. These early forms began to fill the ecological niches left vacant by the Permian extinction. Now let's delve into the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, two eras that marked the zenith of dinosaur evolution. As the Triassic gave way to the Jurassic period, around 201 to 145 million years ago, dinosaurs truly began to flourish. This was the age of the giants. Massive sauropods like Brachiosaurus and Apatosaurus roamed the Earth, their long necks allowing them to reach the highest vegetation. Predatory theropods like the fearsome Allosaurus stalked the land, keeping the herbivore populations in check. The Cretaceous period, around 145 to 66 million years ago, marked the peak of dinosaur diversity. This was the era of iconic giants like Tyrannosaurus rex, one of the largest and most powerful land predators that ever lived. Herbivores like the heavily armored Ankylosaurus, the horned Triceratops, and the plated Stegosaurus also thrived, each with their own unique defenses and adaptations. One of the most fascinating discoveries in recent decades has been the evidence for feathered dinosaurs. Fossil finds, particularly from China, have revealed that many theropod dinosaurs, including close relatives of Tyrannosaurus rex, possessed feathers. Scientists continue to debate the physiology of dinosaurs. Were they warm-blooded like mammals and birds, or cold-blooded like modern reptiles? The evidence is complex, with some studies suggesting a metabolism somewhere in between. Their behavior is also a subject of ongoing research, with fossil evidence hinting at complex social structures, parental care, and even migration patterns in some species. While dinosaurs dominated the land, they weren't the only inhabitants of the Mesozoic world. Early mammals, often small and nocturnal, scurried in the undergrowth. Insects diversified into a myriad of forms, and the plant life also underwent significant changes, with the rise of flowering plants in the Cretaceous period. For over 150 million years, dinosaurs reigned supreme, adapting to a wide range of environments and evolving into an incredible variety of shapes and sizes. Their story is a testament to the power of evolution and the vastness of geological time. But as we will discover in our next chapter, even the most successful dynasties can come to an end. Join us next time as we explore the dramatic events that brought the age of dinosaurs to a sudden and catastrophic close in extinction. Dinosaurs, in their prime, roamed a vibrant Earth. But suddenly a streak of light flashes across the sky. Fire, dust and chaos ensue. The end of an era has begun. For over 150 million years, the dinosaurs had reigned supreme, a dynasty that seemed unshakable. The late Cretaceous period was a world teeming with giants, a vibrant tapestry of life dominated by these magnificent reptiles. But their long reign was about to come to a sudden and catastrophic end. This is the story of the great dinosaur extinction. Around 66 million years ago, at the boundary between the Cretaceous and Paleogene periods, often abbreviated as the KPG boundary, a cataclysmic event occurred that would forever alter the course of life on Earth. The leading theory, and the one with the most compelling evidence, points to the impact of a large asteroid or comet. Scientists believe this impactor was roughly 10 to 15 kilometers in diameter, about the size of a large city. It struck the Earth in what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, creating a massive crater known as the Chicxulub crater, which spans over 180 kilometers in diameter. The energy released by this impact was equivalent to billions of atomic bombs. The aftermath of the asteroid impact was nothing short of catastrophic. Life on Earth would never be the same again. The immediate aftermath of the impact was devastating. Shockwaves rippled across the globe, triggering massive earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Enormous tsunamis, hundreds of meters high, crashed into coastlines. And the impact site itself was vaporized, sending vast amounts of rock and debris high into the atmosphere. But the long-term consequences were even more profound. The impact ejected an immense cloud of dust and soot into the stratosphere, blocking out sunlight for months, if not years. This plunged the planet into a dark and cold impact winter, halting photosynthesis and causing a catastrophic collapse of food chains on both land and in the oceans. One of the key pieces of evidence supporting the asteroid impact theory is the presence of a thin layer of sediment found globally at the KPG boundary that is highly enriched in the element iridium. Iridium is rare in the Earth's crust, but is much more abundant in asteroids and comets. This global iridium layer is like a fingerprint, pointing directly to an extraterrestrial impact. The impact winter had a particularly devastating effect on large, plant-eating dinosaurs, which relied on abundant vegetation. With the plants dying off, these herbivores starved, and in turn, the large carnivorous dinosaurs that preyed upon them also faced extinction. Despite the mass extinction, some species did manage to survive. Small mammals, birds and other resilient creatures adapted to the new, harsh conditions. Over millions of years, these survivors evolved and diversified, leading to the rich tapestry of life we see on Earth today. This remarkable recovery underscores the resilience of life in the face of catastrophic events. While the non-avian dinosaurs, the giants that had ruled the Earth for so long, were the most iconic victims of this extinction event, they weren't the only ones affected. Many other groups of organisms also suffered heavy losses, including marine reptiles, flying reptiles like pterosaurs, and many species of plants and invertebrates. However, not all life perished. Smaller animals, particularly those that could find shelter and survive on limited resources, had a better chance of making it through the impact winter. Early mammals, which were small and often nocturnal, managed to survive. Birds, which we now know are direct descendants of small theropod dinosaurs, also weathered the catastrophe. Other survivors included many reptiles like crocodiles, turtles and lizards, as well as amphibians, fish, and numerous species of insects and plants. The extinction event, while devastating, ultimately cleared the way for new groups of organisms to rise and diversify. While the asteroid impact is the primary driver of the KPG extinction event, some scientists suggest that other factors may have also played a role. For example, there was a period of intense volcanic activity in what is now India, known as the Deccan Traps, which released massive amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, potentially destabilizing the climate even before the impact. The extinction event at the end of the Cretaceous period was a dramatic and pivotal moment in Earth's history. It marked the end of the long reign of the non-avian dinosaurs and paved the way for the rise of mammals, ultimately leading to the world we inhabit today. It serves as a powerful reminder of the fragility of life and the potential for sudden and catastrophic changes on a planetary scale. The story of the dinosaurs' extinction is a compelling one, pieced together from fossil evidence and geological clues. Join us in part 4 of the Earth's timeline, an epic history as we explore the world that emerged from this cataclysm, the rise of mammals. In the blink of an eye, 4 billion years unfold. The Earth's timeline, an epic history. The cataclysm that ended the reign of the dinosaurs left a world scarred but not broken. Part 3 of our journey, the flowering, culminated in that dramatic extinction event. Now we turn the page to a new chapter in Earth's history, a period of rebuilding and remarkable transformation. For over 150 million years, dinosaurs had dominated the land, but their sudden demise created a vast ecological vacuum, an opportunity for the survivors to flourish. This new era, spanning the last 66 million years, is the Cenozoic, literally meaning new life. And it is in this new world that mammals and birds, once overshadowed, would rise to prominence. Freed from the constraints of dinosaur dominance, mammals and birds diversified at an astonishing rate, adapting to fill a myriad of ecological niches. From tiny shrews to giant whales, from flightless ostriches to soaring eagles, these warm-blooded vertebrates embarked on an incredible evolutionary journey that continues to this day. But the Cenozoic era is more than just the story of mammals and birds. It's a period marked by significant global changes. We'll explore the long-term cooling trend that shaped our planet's climate, the rise of vast grasslands that transformed terrestrial ecosystems, the fascinating evolutionary journey of the primates leading to our own species, and the dramatic cycles of ice ages that sculpted the landscapes we know. The Cenozoic era, a planet reborn, is the final act in our epic Earth timeline, the period that ultimately leads to the world we inhabit today. Join us as we delve into this fascinating chapter and witness the dawn of a new age, the age of mammals, the age of birds, and ultimately the age of humanity. The dust had settled, the fiery skies had cleared. The world that emerged after the cataclysm that wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs was a very different place. This is the Paleogene world, the dawn of a new era, and the story of how life began to rebuild and diversify in the absence of its former rulers. The Paleogene epoch began with a planet scarred by extinction. Vast ecological niches lay empty, waiting to be filled. The survivors, particularly the mammals and birds, found themselves in a world ripe with opportunity. With the large dinosaur predators gone, these once marginalized groups were free to explore new evolutionary pathways. The mammals, in particular, underwent a remarkable period of rapid diversification. From their small, often nocturnal ancestors, they began to evolve into a vast array of forms, adapting to different diets and environments. This adaptive radiation saw the emergence of the early ancestors of many of the mammal groups we know today. Consider Purgatorius, one of the earliest known primates, a small, agile creature that lived in the trees. Or Mesonyx, an early carnivorous mammal that, while looking somewhat dog-like, is actually related to modern-day whales. And then there's Eohippus, a small multi-toed ancestor of the modern horse, barely larger than a fox. Perhaps one of the most surprising evolutionary journeys of the Paleogene is that of the whales. Their ancestors were land-dwelling mammals, and fossils like Indohuus, a small, deer-like creature from around 48 million years ago, show the early stages of this transition back to the water. Its thickened ear bones are a key link to modern whales. Just as the mammals were seizing new opportunities, so too were the birds. Having survived the KPG extinction, the avian dinosaurs also diversified rapidly, filling ecological roles previously occupied by other types of reptiles. The Paleogene saw the evolution of many modern bird lineages, as well as some truly remarkable extinct forms. Imagine Gastornis, a giant flightless bird that stood taller than a human and likely occupied the role of a top predator in some ecosystems. Early penguins, adapted for swimming in the oceans, also emerged during this time. And the Paleogene skies were patrolled by early raptors, the ancestors of today's eagles and hawks. The Paleogene wasn't just a time of biological upheaval. The Earth's climate was also undergoing significant changes. The early Paleogene was generally warm, with tropical conditions extending closer to the poles than they do today. However, over the course of the epoch, the planet gradually began to cool, setting the stage for later climatic shifts. This changing climate influenced the distribution and evolution of both mammals and birds, favouring those that could adapt to cooler temperatures and different types of vegetation. The interactions between these diversifying vertebrates and other life forms, such as flowering plants and insects, also became increasingly complex, shaping the ecosystems of the New World. Our understanding of the Paleogene world comes from a wealth of fossil discoveries around the globe. Sites like the Messel Pit in Germany, a remarkably preserved fossil lake, and the Green River Formation in the United States have yielded incredibly detailed fossils of early mammals, birds, insects and plants, providing invaluable insights into this pivotal period of Earth's history. The Paleogene world was a time of remarkable recovery and innovation, a period where the survivors of a global catastrophe seized the opportunity to reshape life on Earth. From small, unassuming ancestors to the early forms of the magnificent creatures we know today, the Paleogene laid the foundation for the world that would follow, a world increasingly dominated by mammals and birds. Join us in the next chapter as we explore the next stage of this transformation, the Great Cooling. The Paleogene world was a time of recovery and rapid diversification following the dinosaur extinction. But the Earth's climate, ever dynamic, was about to embark on a long-term trend that would dramatically reshape the planet and the life it supported. This is the story of the Great Cooling. In the early Paleogene, the Earth was significantly warmer than it is today. Tropical and subtropical climates extended much closer to the poles, and there was little to no permanent ice at either the Arctic or Antarctic. But over the course of the Cenozoic era, spanning millions of years, the planet gradually began to cool, a trend that intensified in the Neogene and Quaternary periods. One of the key drivers of this great cooling was the movement of the Earth's continents, a process we know as continental drift. During the Cenozoic, two major continental shifts played a crucial role. Firstly, Antarctica, which had been connected to South America and Australia, drifted southwards and became isolated at the South Pole. Secondly, the Isthmus of Panama, a narrow strip of land connecting North and South America, gradually rose from the sea. This seemingly small geological event had a profound impact on global ocean currents. Before the Isthmus of Panama formed, there was a direct flow of warm water between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans in the equatorial region. The formation of the isthmus blocked this flow, diverting warm water northwards along the eastern coast of North America, eventually contributing to the Gulf Stream. Even more significantly, the isolation of Antarctica allowed for the development of the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, a powerful current that flows around the continent, preventing warmer waters from reaching it. This effectively isolated Antarctica, thermally leading to the buildup of massive ice sheets at the South Pole, which reflected more sunlight back into space, contributing to global cooling. Another important factor in the Great Cooling was the process of mountain building, or orogeny. The Cenozoic saw the formation of major mountain ranges like the Himalayas, as the Indian tectonic plate collided with Asia and the Andes along the western edge of South America. The uplift of these massive mountain ranges increased the rate of weathering of rocks. Weathering involves the breakdown of rocks by chemical and physical processes, and importantly, it draws down carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, trapping heat, so its removal leads to cooling. This process is part of the Earth's long-term carbon cycle, a complex system involving the exchange of carbon between the atmosphere, oceans, land, and living organisms. Geological processes like weathering and volcanic activity play a crucial role in regulating the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and, consequently, global temperatures. The evidence for the Great Cooling comes from various sources. Scientists analyze the ratio of different isotopes of oxygen in the shells of ancient marine organisms preserved in ocean sediments. These ratios change with temperature, providing a record of past ocean temperatures. Similarly, ice cores drilled from the thick ice sheets of Antarctica and Greenland contain trapped air bubbles that reveal the composition of the ancient atmosphere, including carbon dioxide levels and temperature proxies. The Great Cooling had a profound impact on global ecosystems. As temperatures dropped and conditions became drier in many regions, forests began to retreat and grasslands expanded. This shift favored the evolution of grazing mammals adapted to open environments, as we'll explore in the next chapter. Animals also evolved adaptations to cope with the increasingly cooler climates, such as thicker fur, the ability to store fat, and migrations to warmer regions during colder periods. The cooling trend intensified during the Quaternary period, the most recent geological period, leading to the repeated cycles of glacial and interglacial periods, the Ice Ages, which we will explore in a later chapter. The Great Cooling was a long and complex process, driven by a combination of geological and astronomical factors. It fundamentally reshaped our planet, influencing the distribution of continents, the flow of oceans, the composition of the atmosphere, and ultimately, the evolution of life. Join us in the next chapter as we delve into one of the most significant consequences of this cooling trend, the rise of grass. The Great Cooling had begun its long, slow transformation of our planet. As temperatures gradually dropped and conditions became drier in many regions, the once dominant forests began to give way to a new type of vegetation. one that would reshape terrestrial ecosystems and drive the evolution of a vast array of animal life. This is the story of the rise of grass. For much of the Cenozoic era, forests were the dominant terrestrial biome. But as the climate cooled and rainfall patterns shifted, particularly during the Neogene period, conditions became less favorable for trees in many areas. This created an opportunity for a different kind of plant, one that was better adapted to drier, more open environments, the grasses. Grasses, seemingly simple plants, possess a number of key adaptations that allowed them to thrive in these new conditions. Unlike trees which grow from their tips, grasses grow from their base, close to the ground. This allows them to withstand grazing by animals and recover quickly after being eaten or damaged by fire. Another important adaptation is the presence of silica in their leaves. This makes them tough and abrasive, which helps to deter some herbivores. However, for those animals that did evolve to eat grasses, this silica content would drive their own evolutionary adaptations. Grasses are also incredibly efficient at photosynthesis, the process by which they convert sunlight into energy. Their growth form allows them to capture sunlight effectively, even in open, windy environments. This efficiency made them a highly successful group of plants capable of rapidly colonizing vast areas. The expansion of grasslands became particularly prominent during the Neogene period, which began around 23 million years ago. As the climate continued to cool and dry, in many mid-latitude regions, grasslands spread across continents, creating vast savannas, prairies and steppes. This dramatic shift in vegetation had a profound impact on the evolution of herbivores. Animals that could efficiently digest grasses gained a significant advantage. This led to the co-evolution of grasses and grazing mammals, a remarkable example of how different life forms can shape each other's evolutionary paths. Grazing mammals evolved specialized adaptations for feeding on grasses. Their teeth became high-crowned and continuously growing to withstand the abrasive silica. They developed powerful jaws and specialized digestive systems, often with multiple stomachs, to efficiently break down the tough plant material. The rise of grasslands saw the diversification of iconic grazing mammals. Early horses like Mesohippus evolved from their smaller forest-dwelling ancestors into faster, more agile grazers. Vast herds of bison roamed the North American prairies. Antelopes and gazelles flourished on the African savannas, and the ancestors of modern elephants adapted to graze on the grasses of various continents. The abundance of grazing mammals, in turn, drove the evolution of predators. Swift and agile carnivores like early cats and dogs evolved to hunt these herbivores across the open grasslands. Birds of prey also adapted to hunt smaller mammals and birds that inhabited these environments. Grasslands also played a crucial role in shaping the landscape. The dense root systems of grasses helped to stabilize soil and prevent erosion. The seasonal growth and dieback of grasses contributed to the development of fertile topsoil. Additionally, natural fires became a common occurrence in many grasslands, playing an important ecological role in preventing the encroachment of trees and maintaining the open nature of these ecosystems. Today, grasslands cover a significant portion of the Earth's land surface, supporting a vast array of biodiversity. From the savannas of Africa to the prairies of North America and the steppes of Eurasia, these ecosystems are vital for countless species and play a crucial role in the planet's overall health. The rise of grass was a pivotal event in the history of life, a consequence of a changing climate that led to the evolution of a new dominant plant form and in turn drove a major wave of animal diversification. It's a testament to the interconnectedness of life on Earth and the powerful influence of environmental change. Join us in the next chapter as we explore another fascinating branch of the mammalian family tree, the primate story. Within the vast and diverse family tree of mammals, one particular branch holds a special significance for us. It's the story of the primates, a group of intelligent and adaptable creatures that have evolved over millions of years, ultimately leading to the emergence of our own species. This is the primate story. The earliest ancestors of primates appeared in the Paleogene period following the extinction of the dinosaurs. These were small, often nocturnal mammals that lived in the trees, a lifestyle we call arboreal. They were likely insectivorous, relying on their agility and keen senses to navigate the forest canopy. Over time, these early primates evolved a set of key characteristics that defined their lineage. One of the most distinctive features is their grasping hands and feet, with opposable thumbs and big toes. This adaptation allowed them to grip branches securely and move with dexterity through the trees. Another crucial development was the shift towards forward-facing eyes, providing binocular vision. This gave primates depth perception, essential for accurately judging distances when leaping between branches. Their sense of smell also became less dominant, while their vision became more acute. Compared to other mammals, primates also developed relatively large brains. This increased brain power likely played a role in their complex social behaviors and problem-solving abilities, which were advantageous in the intricate environment of the forest canopy. Within the primate lineage, a major split occurred, leading to two main groups, the prosimians and the anthropoids. Prosimians, meaning before apes, include lemurs, lorises and tarsiers. These primates often retain more ancestral traits and are generally found in specific regions of the world, like Madagascar and Southeast Asia. The anthropoids, meaning human-like, are a more diverse group that includes monkeys, apes and humans. One of the early branches within the anthropoids led to the monkeys. These primates diversified into two main groups: Old World monkeys found in Africa and Asia, and New World monkeys found in Central and South America. They differ in various anatomical features, including their noses and tails. Around 25 million years ago, during the Miocene epoch, a significant evolutionary event occurred, the emergence of apes, also known as hominoids. Apes differ from monkeys in several key ways. They are generally larger, have no tails, and possess more flexible shoulders and hips, allowing for greater range of motion. They also exhibit more complex social behaviors and cognitive abilities. Within the ape lineage, another important split occurred, leading to the lesser apes, the gibbons and siamangs, and the great apes. The great apes include orangutans, gorillas, chimpanzees, bonobos, and of course humans. These primates are characterized by their large size, high intelligence, and complex social structures. Around 6 to 7 million years ago, a crucial divergence occurred within the great ape family, the emergence of the hominins. Hominins are the group that includes modern humans and our extinct bipedal ancestors. The key defining characteristic of hominins is bipedalism, the ability to walk upright on two legs. Bipedalism offered several advantages, freeing up the hands for carrying objects, using tools and other tasks. It also allowed for a higher vantage point for spotting predators and prey, and it may have been more energy efficient for long-distance travel in open environments. The fossil record has provided us with a growing understanding of early hominin evolution. Discoveries of fossils like Australopithecus, including the famous Lucy, dating back millions of years, show early hominins with a mix of ape-like and human-like features, capable of walking upright. Later hominins, such as Homo habilis and Homo erectus, showed further increases in brain size and the development of more sophisticated tools. The primate story is a long and intricate tale spanning tens of millions of years and involving numerous evolutionary branches. From our small, tree-dwelling ancestors to the complex, tool-using humans of today, our journey has been shaped by environmental pressures, genetic changes, and a remarkable capacity for adaptation. Our place in this grand narrative is a relatively recent development, but one that has had a profound impact on the planet. Join us in the next chapter as we explore the dramatic environmental changes of the last few million years. The Ice Ages. The long cooling trend of the Cenozoic reached its dramatic climax in the Pleistocene epoch, a period defined by repeated and often rapid fluctuations in global climate. This was the era of the Ice Ages, a time when vast ice sheets advanced and retreated across continents, profoundly shaping the world and influencing the course of human evolution. The defining characteristic of the Pleistocene was a series of glacial and interglacial cycles. For tens of thousands of years, the Earth would plunge into a cold glacial period with massive ice sheets spreading from the poles. Then, relatively quickly, the climate would warm, the ice would retreat, and the Earth would enter a warmer interglacial period, like the one we are in now. The evidence for these past ice ages is written in the very landscape. We see it in the U-shaped valleys carved by glaciers, in the piles of rocky debris called moraines left behind as the ice retreated, and in the presence of erratic boulders. Rocks transported vast distances by ice sheets. Scientists also study ice cores drilled from Greenland and Antarctica, which contain layers of ice that trap information about past temperatures and atmospheric composition. Marine sediments also provide clues about past climate conditions. The primary driver of these cyclical climate changes are subtle variations in the Earth's orbit around the Sun, known as Milankovitch cycles. These cycles operate over tens of thousands of years and affect the amount and distribution of solar radiation that reaches our planet. The first component is eccentricity, which describes the shape of the Earth's orbit. It varies from being almost perfectly circular to more elliptical over a cycle of about 100,000 years. A more elliptical orbit means the Earth receives more solar radiation when it's closer to the Sun and less when it's farther away, leading to more extreme seasonal variations. The impact of the ice ages has been profound. These periods of extensive glaciation have shaped landscapes, sea levels, and even the evolution of life on Earth. Ice sheets expanded and contracted, carving out valleys and altering river courses. The redistribution of water from the oceans to ice sheets caused sea levels to drop, exposing land bridges that allowed species to migrate. These climatic shifts forced species to adapt, migrate, or face extinction, ultimately influencing the course of evolution. The second component is obliquity, which is the tilt of the Earth's axis. This tilt varies between about 22 and 24.5 degrees over a cycle of roughly 41,000 years. A greater tilt leads to more pronounced seasons, with warmer summers and colder winters. The third component is precession, which refers to the wobble of the Earth's axis, much like a spinning top. This wobble changes the timing of the seasons relative to Earth's orbit around the Sun, with a cycle of about 23,000 years. The combined effects of these Milankovitch cycles influence the amount of solar energy reaching the high latitudes of the northern hemisphere during summer. Cooler summers in this region can prevent the previous winter's snow from melting completely, leading to a gradual buildup of ice sheets over thousands of years. The ice ages had a dramatic impact on global sea levels. During glacial periods, vast amounts of water were locked up in massive ice sheets, causing sea levels to drop significantly, in some cases by over 100 meters. This exposed land bridges that are now submerged, such as the Bering Land Bridge connecting Asia and North America. The advance and retreat of ice sheets also profoundly affected plant and animal life. Permafrost, permanently frozen ground, expanded across large areas. Tundra ecosystems, characterized by low-growing vegetation, spread southwards. Many species of animals adapted to the cold, giving rise to the megafauna of the ice ages, including woolly mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, giant ground sloths, and saber-toothed cats. Human evolution and the future. The ice ages played a crucial role in human evolution and dispersal. The harsh conditions likely acted as a selective pressure, favoring intelligence, tool use, and social cooperation. The lower sea levels during glacial periods also facilitated the migration of early humans out of Africa and into other parts of the world, including the crossing of the Bering Land Bridge into the Americas. The most recent glacial period, known as the last glacial maximum, reached its peak around 20,000 years ago. Since then, the Earth has gradually warmed, and the ice sheets have retreated, leading to the current interglacial period, the Holocene, which began about 11,700 years ago. This is the relatively stable climate in which human civilization has flourished. Scientists continue to study the ice ages to better understand the complex interplay of factors that drive climate change. There is ongoing debate about whether we are currently on a trajectory towards a new glacial period, or if human-induced climate change, with its rapid increase in greenhouse gases, is now overriding these natural cycles. The ice ages were a period of dramatic environmental upheaval, a time when ice sculpted the continents and forced life to adapt or perish. They left an indelible mark on our planet and played a significant role in shaping the course of human history. The story of Earth's timeline is a testament to the constant change and the powerful forces that continue to shape our world. Part 4 of our epic journey, A Planet Reborn, has chronicled the remarkable recovery of life following the dinosaur extinction. We've witnessed the astonishing diversification of mammals and birds, the long, slow cooling of our planet, the rise of vast grasslands, and the dramatic environmental swings of the ice ages. But within this grand narrative, one particular story has been steadily unfolding, the story of our own origins. From our humble beginnings as small tree-dwelling primates, millions of years of evolution have sculpted our lineage. The development of grasping hands, binocular vision, and increasingly complex brains laid the groundwork. Then came the crucial step bipedalism, the ability to walk upright. This seemingly simple adaptation freed our ancestors' hands, allowing them to interact with their environment in entirely new ways. The Pleistocene epoch, the era of the ice ages, became the stage for significant milestones in human evolution. Around 2.5 million years ago in Africa, the genus Homo emerged. Early Homo species, like Homo habilis, began to craft simple tools from stone, marking a crucial turning point in our relationship with the natural world. These tools allowed them to butcher meat, process plants, and ultimately thrive in a wider range of environments. Roughly 1.8 million years ago, Homo erectus appeared, a more advanced hominin with a larger brain and more sophisticated tools. This species was the first to venture out of Africa, spreading across Asia and even reaching parts of Europe. Homo erectus was a resilient and adaptable species, surviving for over 1 million years and mastering the use of fire. The story then leads us to the emergence of our own species, Homo sapiens, in Africa around 300,000 years ago. With our larger brains and capacity for complex thought and communication, Homo sapiens developed increasingly sophisticated tools, art, and social structures. As the ice ages fluctuated, Homo sapiens began their own great migration out of Africa, eventually populating every corner of the globe. The lower sea levels during glacial periods facilitated some of these movements, allowing early humans to cross land bridges into new territories. As the last glacial period receded and the warmer Holocene epoch began, human societies started to flourish. The development of agriculture around 12,000 years ago marked another profound shift, allowing for settled communities, the growth of civilizations, and the rapid acceleration of human impact on the planet. The emergence of humanity is the latest chapter in the Earth's long and epic history. From the very first spark of life billions of years ago through unimaginable transformations and dramatic events, the evolutionary journey has led to us. We are a product of this incredible timeline, shaped by the same forces that sculpted continents and drove the rise and fall of countless species. As we stand at this point in time, we have the unique ability to understand the vast history that has led to our existence. We can look back at the Cambrian explosion, the reign of dinosaurs, and the icy grip of the ice ages, and see our own story as part of this grand cosmic narrative. But with this understanding comes responsibility. The future of our planet, and indeed our own species, now rests in our hands. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through Earth's timeline. While our story continues to be written, we hope this series has provided a glimpse into the breathtaking history of our home planet.